Humanity, I love you all with all my heart, with all my might. I'm so Ray. As you know, my videos are about love, infinity, creation, because we're infinite love, infinite energy, infinite creation. This is who we are. We're the human race, we're the human heartbeat, pulse of life, the pulse of creation. Our hearts generate the electromagnetic field that surrounds the human body. Our space structure density is the human body as a result of the electromagnetic field surrounding us. Okay, and we are that. The very epicenter of electromagnetic field is the pulse of life, the pulse of creation, the human heart. This is precisely who we are. And the epicenter, as you know, is the singularity, the biological singularity, the human creator. The biological creator is the human heart, and the highest energy comes from the epicenter of the singularity, the very core of the core of the core, which is the epicenter of the epicenter. The epicenter of the sphere is the singularity, but the epicenter of the singularity is the energy release point, and that is the highest energy. And the highest energy of creation of the human heart is love. Love is the highest energy of creation. This is exactly who we are. We are the human race. We are the human race with the highest energy of creation at the biological scale. This is exactly who we are. This is our nature. We are the human race. And this is our planet. We created it. So I wanna talk to you about this beautiful virtuous cycle, this infinite virtuous cycle of creation. And is sun and earth together as one. So is sun and earth, this duality principle, these two spherical objects, the earth and the sun, coming together as one and creating everything that there is. Everything that exists from our biological point of view, from our consciousness point of view, as we know it, because of this infinite virtuous cycle of creation. Sun and earth coming together as one, duality principles, and when these two interact and they become one, then the human heart emerges, the human DNA, the key, which is a big part of this video. This is the foundation for the next video. So it's essentially that earth and the sun and earth together as one, these two spheres, these two beautiful creators coming together as one, creating the human race, creating the human DNA. And the biological creator is a human heart. You see, the biological creator is a human heart because we are the image of the creator. And the creator per se is the central sun, our sun. And we are the image of it, which means that we are light spherical energy ourselves. We're light spherical beings. We have an electromagnetic field that's spherical, just like the sun itself, exactly the same. There's no difference between the sun and us. We are the same, but at the biological scale. We are an incredible species. We're the human race. And we emerge as a result of the love of a heart. And a heart comes from the DNA structure, and the DNA structure is created as a result of this beautiful dynamic, this beautiful duality principle of earth and sun coming together as one, the sun and the earth coming together as one and creating everything that we know. The Father, the Sun, and the Mother, the earth, coming together as one, creating us, the human heart, the human species. The primordial instinct of creation is the human heartbeat. Pulse of life, the pulse of creation. Without the human heartbeat, we wouldn't exist. So you see, and the human heartbeat comes from the biology of creation. And the biology of creation is possible because of a father and a mother coming together, the sun and the earth as one, creating the conditions for us to evolve into what we have become, this infinite creation, this infinite evolution, that we are the human race. Who we are, the human race. And why is the heart the epicenter? Why is the heart the biological creator? Because it's the singularity of the biology. You see, it's the pulse of life, the pulse of creation that generates the electromagnetic field, and everything comes as a result of that. All the telemetry, all the electrogravitics, human heart is the highest energy. Love is the highest energy of creation. As a result of that, consciousness and self-awareness. So our consciousness and self-awareness is essentially the consciousness and self-awareness of the infinite love of existence. We are one with it because we consume the energy of the central sun. You see, the sun is right there, our central sun. I stare at the sun and open the portal and build a bridge. And I use this energy to evolve into infinity, like we all do. Because this is something that is unique to our species, the human race, because we are this species. Because we are at the epicenter. You see, our sun is not any sun. This is not any star system. This is not any star in the universe. Our sun is the epicenter of the universe. Our sun, let me repeat this one more time. Our sun is the epicenter of the universe. Just like the human heart is the epicenter of the electromagnetic field that it creates, our sun is the epicenter of the universe, this universe that we inhabit. This universe that we inhabit, this infinity, this eternity, this existence, the epicenter of it, the singular point of release, the singularity of it, the epicenter, the heart of it, is planet Earth's sun, our sun, the central sun, the first sun, the son of suns, sun, the first sun, the son of suns, sun, the central sun. As you know, the electromagnetic field of the universe has an epicenter, and that has to be the energy release point where all the energy originates from, all the light, all the elements, hydrogen and helium come out of it at the epicenter of the epicenter, the heart of the heart, the singular point of release. The singularity is the singular point where all points meet, and our sun, the central sun, the first sun, the son of suns, sun. This is our sun, sun. So our sun is that. Our sun is the central point of release of all the energy that comes from the tension of the electromagnetic field of the universe itself, all the infinite points in it, the singularities, the nodes that are part of it, all the points, an infinite number of points, and all they meet at the singularity through this vortex, this node, this system, which is very simple to understand, is a wormhole, and at the epicenter of it is the central sun, which is essentially the central sun of the first galaxy that forms in a universe. So this central sun releases all the energy that manifests and generates over 6 cycles of space and vacuum structures the first galaxy. In this case, our galaxy, the Milky Way. So the Milky Way is a galaxy at the epicenter of creation. The very first galaxy, and the central sun of this galaxy, our galaxy, the Milky Way, is our sun, sun. The first sun, the son of suns, sun, the central sun. Okay, this is the first sun, the energy release point, the singularity of this universe. And the energy came out of it and it formed this galaxy, which is the neighborhood of the sun. Okay, think of it in those terms. It's the neighborhood. All the other star systems that are essentially, they formed after the central sun. All the energy came from the sun, from the son of suns for the first sun, from the central sun. And this is an infinite process because a sphere has an infinite number of points on the surface. And the surface of the sphere is the space structure, space of the universe, as we call it space. And each of those things is a point, and each of those points is a singularity, and each of those singularity is what? The central sun of all the other galaxies in the universe that formed after the first singularity, because all the points meet at the singularity, the central point. And this happens to be our sun. Our sun is the central sun of the universe. What species inhabits planet Earth, which orbit is the central sun? Us. We are the human race. So we are the central species. We are the first species, the most ancient species. This is who we are, because we came before everyone else. We were the first. And by being the first, we had this special relationship with infinity itself. Why? Because we are the central species. at the very heart, at the very epicenter of creation. You see, everything originated after us. All our neighborhood, all the star systems in our galaxy, the Milky Way, they are after us. They were created from the light from our sun. All of them. They were created at different scales of densities. Their densities are lower in terms of energy density, but higher in terms of matter density, mass, because they're heavier. They weigh more. Why? Because they are smaller. They are created from us. They came out the scales of creation. Scales of creation. The vibrancy, the energy frequency is lower than ours, because all the energy that came from the origin is our energy that created everything. So obviously it's the central galaxy, our galaxy, the first galaxy, the Milky Way, and we are the epicenter of it. The central sun of the galaxy is our sun. Our sun, the first sun, the sun of suns, sun. Okay, sun. So what is this? Well, what it means is that this is the first galaxy at the epicenter of the universe, the most ancient galaxy, and we happen to be the most ancient species at the epicenter of it. So by being these, that means that all the other galaxies that formed after our galaxy, because of the light that travels from across the space structure of the tension of the sphere, which is the singularity itself, all that energy moves out of our sun and goes where? Well, it goes to all the different spaces, right, that needs to be filled. The spherical vacuum thresholds that must be filled in the tension on the surface of the sphere of the universe. And all these become spherical vacuum thresholds, and these spherical vacuum thresholds are met in specific telemetries, meaning coordinates, vectors in the space of the surface. So the energy goes there, and because of the electrogravitics differential, meaning the energy density differential, it generates vacuums, and these vacuums are like bubbles. They're bubbles, spherical vacuum thresholds, because of the difference in energy densities. When the energy moves across space, which is the tension on the surface of the electromagnetic field of the universe, that moves from the epicenter, from the central sun, which is our sun, the first sun, the central sun of creation, us. So it moves out of it, and it forms our galaxy, and then that energy keeps on moving, and then it starts to fill the spherical vacuum thresholds of all the energy in the cosmos, of the differential, and that differential is called electrogravitics differential. So the electrogravitics differential at a specific telemetry read, which is a location, a vector, forms a vacuum, and that vacuum is spherical in nature, is a bubble, spherical vacuum threshold, which means that bubble is the surface of that new sphere, which is a space structure within the tension on the surface of the sphere of the universe. Because remember, this electromagnetic field of the universe is a sphere, and at the epicenter is the central sun, our sun, the first sun, the sun of suns. And all the energy moves out. And when the energy moves out, remember, it needs to be stable. So the structure of the universe, in order for itself to exist, which is the electromagnetic field that is giving the energy to the singularity, that structure must be filled. Right? The space structure of it must be filled, which is a space inside of it, within it. And that space structure is filled in electrogravitics differentials. And these electrogravitic differentials, what are they? Well, these electrogravitics differentials are in the way of the space structure that gets filled because of the energy difference. You see, as light starts to move out of the epicenter, the singularity, all the space within the sphere, the electromagnetic field of the universe, is at different temperatures, different heat levels, different densities, right? Because it's further out, and because it's further out, it's cooler. It's not as hot, it's not as bright, right? It's less light, right? Because the energy is moving out of the central point, and when that happens, it creates electrogravitics differentials. And those differences, this is almost like a pressure gradient. It's a pressure gradient really, but in terms of energy density, it's called electrogravitics differentials. And this energy, right, because of the difference, remember, everything is spherical in nature, and to create an electromagnetic field, you need to have a sphere. So it forms a bubble, and the bubble is the vacuum. It's a spherical vacuum threshold in the space structure within the tension of the electromagnetic field of the sphere of the universe. So the energy from our sun moves in the way of light and elements through it, right, through the cosmos, and then it meets the differential threshold, the electrogravitics differential, and when it meets that telemetry, that vector, that point, that coordinate in the universe, as light moves out from the singularity, our central sun, us, the first sun, sun, it meets that point, and when it does, remember, it forms a bubble because of the pressure gradient, the differential in energy. And when it does, what does it do? Well, it's a bubble. It formed because creation must be spherical in nature for a singularity to emerge, which is the central sun of that galaxy. So then all the energy fills that vacuum, and it generates the electromagnetic field, which is the energy that's hitting that differential in a spherical manner. And when it does, all that energy is already there, but that energy must be released, and it's released at the very epicenter, which is the singularity of it. And when that energy is met, it forms because of the vacuum, you see. The bubble of energy gets formed, which is the electromagnetic field of a galaxy. And that energy is fed from the energy from the central sun. And when it does, it generates the bubble, and that motion, because of the bubble is filled, spherical vacuum threshold with all the energy on the tension of this electromagnetic field, the energy is released in the way of a vortex, just like a storm, the eye of a storm, the same way. The gradient of it, the pressure gradient, is the same, but the energy is released at the epicenter, and that's called a singularity. And that singularity becomes the central sun of a new galaxy that is born. And then that is at a different scale, because we came first with the epicenter, so the energy density of those galaxies is way lower. Because it comes, remember, the energy is coming from the tension and is released at our point. So even though it has an infinite cycle of creation, because it's a new galaxy that it sustains itself with its own electromagnetic field and its epicenter, it's still at a threshold level that is within the sphere that created it, which is the universe. So it's less energy, but it's still infinite in nature, because it goes into this cycle of infinity. Because it has a singularity and an electromagnetic field, which is the space structure of the galaxy itself. This new galaxy. Outside the perimeter of the Milky Way, because we are the central galaxy of the universe, and the central sun of the central galaxy of the universe is our sun, the first sun, the son of suns. And we happen to be the planet title locked to it. It's just the way it is. We are the human race. So then all these galaxies are formed. And then what happens? Well, the same process goes to infinity. Now, the central sun of that galaxy is the epicenter, the singularity of the electromagnetic field of the galaxy. And that space structure must be filled, right? Because the tension on the surface of the electromagnetic field is being released at that singular point where all points meet. And that energy gets released from that central sun. And that energy is the light coming from the central sun, that it tends to generate also light elements, the primary elements. Very energetically dense elements, photons and things of that nature. Tends to be sometimes hydrogen as well, and it tends to be helium. But in some cases, other elements, not necessarily those, because remember of the scale of it. Depending on the distance from the epicenter, the elements of those central suns of those galaxies are those. So what happens then? Well, the energy gets released, right, from the central sun of that galaxy, which is not the central sun of the universe, just of that galaxy. The energy gets released. And when the energy gets released, the same happens as what it formed that galaxy. So the space structure of the electromagnetic field of that galaxy must be filled. And it's filled in the way of the same electrogravitics differentials. Because when you create a sphere, then you're creating an infinity. Because there is an infinite number of points within a sphere, and the electromagnetic field of this galaxy is spherical, and the epicenter of it is the point where all these infinite number of points meet. So then what happens is that all the energy that's being released, because of, why is it infinite energy in the epicenter? Because there's an infinite number of points in the tension on the surface of the sphere, creating that energy in the first place to be released as a release point. So the system the structure becomes stable. This galaxy becomes stable. That's why the singularity forms. So the energy is released. And when the energy is released, then star systems within that galaxy start to form. Why? Because the differential, the electrogravity's differential meeting the outer rims and outside the epicenter of that galaxy, and then the temperature difference, the gradients are met, and then a vacuum gets formed in the way of a bubble, lies spherical vacuum threshold, and it meets the energy, creates the electromagnetic field of that bubble, of that spherical vacuum threshold, and the energy in the epicenter creates the sun, a star, within that galaxy, and then the energy gets released at a different threshold of density, again, because it's smaller than the galaxy, it's within the galaxy. But that singularity is the star, and the star itself has its own electromagnetic field that is a space structure that does essentially the work, that has a space vacuum within it that needs to be filled, and that is filled with the energy from it itself. And then that energy is heavier elements, and those elements are the elements that do what? Well, they eventually lead up to the charges and the magnetism that comes from all these elements coming together into molten spheres, because they have their own tension, their own gravitics, their own electromagnetism, their own magnetism, their own gravity, their own pull, because they're coming together as one, and they end up becoming planets in the end. And they orbit the space structure of the electromagnetic field of this star that they inhabit. So that's why they have a locking mechanic, tidal locking to the central sun of it. So they have an orbit around that star. And that process goes to infinity. Because within a galaxy, there is an infinite number of star systems, because the sphere is infinite in nature, as it starts to populate new space, right? And then you do that, and then at the universal scale, it's an infinite number of galaxies. Okay? But we happen to be the epicenter of it, which gives us this special role, and this is why this infinite virtuous cycle of creation, right, of sun on earth. Because the sun created everything, because it's the epicenter, the singularity of this universe, which is not the only universe, by the way. This is just one spherical vacuum threshold that was made, one electromagnetic field, one bubble, one pressure gradient that was made from energy outside of it that created the singularity in the first place by meeting the requirements, and it created this universe. But this is a universe that we inhabit, so it became our reality. But there is an infinite number of universes outside our universe, because that's the nature of infinity, because infinity itself is spherical. There is an infinite number of points within, on the surface of the tension of a sphere, the electromagnetic field of infinity, right? And at the epicenter is a singularity of infinity that is created all the energy that fills up all the vacuums on the tension of the surface of the sphere itself, which is the space structure of it. And that is, each of those points is a universe, and we're just one of those universes. Okay, so we happen to be that. We happen to be the epicenter of a node of infinity, which is the central sun of the singularity of a universe. So this is us, and this is our sun, sun, the first sun, the son of suns. This is who we are. This is a species, sun. We are sun. Why? Because we're the son of suns. Our sun happens to be that. Okay. So there's this beautiful dynamic. Right now, we establish what the sun is, the singularity, and this is the first component, the first element of this duality principle, infinite virtuous cycle of sun and earth. But the sun came before the earth. Why? Because the sun created all the energy that originated into what? The planets. And these planets originated into what in the end? At the density of consciousness and self-awareness at the biological scale, life forms such as ourselves, the human race. Okay, so, but how do we get to planet Earth? It's a long story, but I'm going to make it short. So this is our origin story. This is who we are as a species, where we come from. I know this because I've been able to unlock the DNA memory structure of our species after it's been dormant for a very long time due to events that took place in the distant past that led to a fallout called the Ice Age. okay, that essentially led to the current times that we live in which we forgot that we are the epicenter of everything that exists in this universe and all the universes that we have created, because we have evolved into a special species, because that's where Earth comes in as a result of this duality, you see. Okay, so let's talk about it a little bit then. So where do we come from, the human race? Well, we do not come from planet Earth. We do not come from planet Earth. We, our species, the human race, built planet Earth. We manufactured planet Earth. We made it. We built it with technology, our technology, which is encoded in our DNA, slice spherical technology, spherical technology. We have the ability to tap into space vacuum structures and generate singularities from the energy harnessed from the central sun. And with these technologies, we were able to make galaxies as we learn, as we evolve, and make planets such as planet Earth. And also move across the universe instantly, a life state, because of our energy, because we're tapping into the central sun energy, the singularity. So we had the full reading of the entire universe, its own structure, the electromagnetic field of it, the space curvature of it, everything. So we knew all the vectors and all the points and all the pulses in the singularities of all that exists. So we will be able to tap into that energy, form a filament, and manifest there immediately in our spherical spaceships. Because we were the central race, and by being the central race, you're the epicenter of creation. Everything is faster for you. And we had this advantageous position, which was that we had an infinite number of cycles to evolve into light spherical energy, which is what we are. And we were with the first species. We didn't have anyone getting on the way of evolution and progress, because we were the first one. Everything came after us. But we didn't come from planet Earth. Planet Earth, as I said, planet Earth, we manufacture it with our spherical technology that is encoded in our DNA. Okay, so how did this happen? Well, we come from the proximity of the central sun, one of the first star systems, not star systems, I mean one of the first planets that formed in the proximity of the central sun. Very much the case. In the proximity of the central sun. Not far from Earth, but far enough for us to not be able to see it in the sky. Okay? So essentially, at the naked eye, I mean. So it's a little bit distant from the epicenter, which is where we are. So, but still, we were the first species. We were the first species. We were the first species. And by doing that, we have an advantage, because remember, everything, all the life forms form after us, because we were the first planet to inhabit consciousness and self-awareness in the way of biology, for us to evolve into becoming conscious and intelligent of who we are and our role in the universe as being the central species. Because everyone was forming after us, because we are the first, so everything comes after us, because we're the genesis of creation, the very epicenter. The very epicenter, because we're so close to the proximity of the central sun. So what happened is that after an infinite number of cycles, we've evolved into who we are, a predecessor DNA structure of who we are, similar to us, but not quite the same. So what allowed us to do was to understand that we were the central species, still the human race looking like us, but a little bit different in terms of evolution, because our version now is more evolved than when we manufacture planet Earth, which is what comes next. So essentially, what happened was that we became conscious and self-aware of the universe itself, and that we were in the proximity of the central sun. So we became masters of space and vacuum. So we would harness the energy from the sun, because we understood that everything was spherical, because we understood our DNA structure was spherical, and we had a heart and a pulse of creation, and we understood everything at the biological scale that allow us to essentially understand the patterns of nature and develop light spherical technologies, which were, in the beginning, we would use these technologies to essentially make galaxies, because we were learning from the central sun and all the galaxies that formed after us. And everything that was, because we had an infinite number of cycles to evolve to this level, because of our advantages, competitive advantage by being at the epicenter. It was a strategic location for a life form to evolve into this. So essentially, what we have become as a human species. So essentially what we were doing, we were tapping into the space vacuum structures ourselves and forming singularities that were essentially harnessed from the energy of the central sun. And for us, it was relatively easy because we were so close to the epicenter that the filaments, the tension on the surface of the sphere, the space structure of everything around us is packed because it's the central energy of the sun. So it's easier to form spherical singularities here. Well, all singularities are spherical. I mean, spherical devices that harness energy from the central sun in the way of a singularity. So what we were doing essentially was our spaceships were powered by these devices, by these singularities, these spherical devices that were essentially generating an electromagnetic field around our spaceships that would allow us to inhabit them. So the breathing and everything, because we encoded the technology into our DNA, because in that way we would interface with our technologies, with our thoughts and consciousness and self-awareness. So we would guide them. They would be our assistants. So we would, with our thoughts, the technology would essentially do, and it was more efficient, more productive. And by encoding in our DNA, that was the way that we've essentially, the mechanism that we used to be able to be more productive as a species, and also security, because it's our DNA structure, so you need to be human to be able to operate these devices, these technologies. And also the technology will be sentient because it will be able to tap into our DNA structure and then help us. And we will be able to, for example, because we were tapping all our memories and everything into our DNA and our experiences, we will be able to re-render pretty much everything that our memories from all the humans, that because we all share our own DNA structure, and we would render these images in front of us like holograms that are pretty much real, but you are conscious of it, so you can relive the moment and the experience. So we can essentially relive the past and kind of like think of it as going into the past, but in reality it wasn't the past, it was here and now, but we were reliving the memories in that way to learn more and things. And when we understood this principle, then we understood that there was telemetry of all the previous events in the universe because of the energy footprint and everything, the telemetry of it. So we would be able to go to all the specific times and places in the past, prior to us and after us, but still the past. So we would relive those moments and see them. We wouldn't be able to change them or alter them because those events already took place, but we will be able to see them and relive them and experience them with our consciousness and self-awareness to learn, because we were able to manifest them because we encoded everything in our DNA. And because we had infinite energy, we could just, with our thoughts and consciousness, interface and watch everything. So essentially what that led us was to, because we were tapping into infinite energy, then we were able to use the same telemetry to see the future as well. So we were able to see the future. So we would not travel to the future, but see the visions of the future, specific visions about everything that will take place as a result of our actions here and now and what happened in the past. Because there is a telemetry and electrogravitics to everything that is spherical, which is everything. And we were encoding everything in our DNA. So we would take actions now and see the impacts of the future. So we would essentially model creation by taking actions that would have the optimal impact in the future. Because we understood infinity. Because we became that species. And we would also here and now go to any location in the moment. Not only the future events and the past events, but the present moment, anywhere, all the locations. Because when you go that, then you create, say, a singularity to make a galaxy, then you can see what the telemetry of that will be in 1,000,000 years, or 1,000,000,000 years, or 1,000,000,000,000 years. You see everything, because it's the way energy is. So you can see the impact of your creations, and because we were creating everything with our love on our hearts, we would know the impact of everything. So amazing species, the epicenter of everything, and we encoded everything in our DNA. So essentially, this is us, this is the human species. So we've been doing this for a long time. So essentially what happened is we became the central species of everything, because we became masters of space and vacuum, electrogravitics and telemetry, which essentially, because we were the singularity of everything, we knew the future, we knew the past, and we lived in the present. So strategic right? Because then again, it's an advantage that you have when you encode everything in your DNA. And you have access to infinite energy to be able to power everything with your thoughts and consciousness, interfacing. So, okay, so what happened? Well, what happened was that we were bored of creating galaxies because, you see, we were tapping into the energy of the electromagnetic field of this universe. But we understood that we couldn't go outside our universe. We didn't have enough energy. You see, we would project into the future, but everything will be the same universe. It's just, okay, so these are the end states of this galaxy that we're creating today, or that we created a million years ago, or whatever. It doesn't matter. So we would see that, but everything was contained within the space structure of this universe. So we were frustrated in a way because we wanted to evolve further. We were like, okay, so how can we go further? How can we go further? Because we understand that this energy comes from an infinity, which is the energy of the spherical singularity of infinity itself. That is, each of those singularities, each of these points, just like each galaxy that we were creating, will be a universe that created us in the first place. So we wanted to have access to that, understand that, and meet other species more advanced than us or equal to us in status that have already gotten to that level, because we knew that we were the central race, the central species of our universe. But not of everything, because it's an infinite number of everything. Because we understood that by becoming masters of space and vacuum and being able to essentially know everything, and everything was encoded in our DNA. But we knew everything about our universe, but we didn't know beyond our universe, because we didn't have kind of like the mechanisms to understand beyond that level of consciousness and self-awareness. So we needed to evolve even further, and we knew this. And this is where planet Earth comes in. This is where planet Earth comes in. So essentially what happened was that after an infinite number of cycles of evolution, we realized this, right? That the energy of the central sun created us, but that energy came from infinity itself, and we wanted to become one with it. We wanted to go to other universes and create universes ourselves if possible. This mindset, this thinking, because we were the epicenter of everything in this universe. All these galaxies, everything. We didn't create the species per se ourselves, but the energy we harnessed and went to the specific spherical vacuum thresholds and generated the singularities of those galaxies. So we will go and accelerate everything and see how that ended up becoming all these life forms that originated just like we did. And we knew that if we did that, that means that probably someone did that to us from a different universe. So that became kind of like the culture. So we say, okay, so how can we ourselves evolve into the next level then? So we manufacture planet Earth. And how do we go about it? Well, it was very simple. So we realized that we were the epicenter of the universe, and that's why we had this strategic advantage. So because of it, we knew that in order for us to evolve, the only way to do that is for our DNA to become smarter and more evolved. And the only way to do that is to get closer to the epicenter of our central sun. So what we decided to do is we gather our whole civilization effort and endeavor essentially became manufacturing planet Earth. Because planet Earth will be a spaceship planet that we manufacture, spherical in nature, that will be able to tidal lock to the central sun at a closest proximity that can still host our DNA in a successful manner, so we can inhabit the planet that we were manufacturing. So we can be at the very core of the core, because where we came from wasn't as close. We'll be at the closest point, that so we can still be conscious and self-aware and have our heritage and legacy and our memories and our DNA structure and everything for our tech and everything. Because the planet is tech, right? It's encoded in our DNA. In fact, this planet is a machine that we manufacture. It's just spherical. It's a spaceship. So if you're human and you tap into the energy of your DNA, which is love and the highest energy of creation, why? Because love is the energy of the human heart. It's the epicenter that creates everything. So if you do that, then we can ourselves manage everything on Earth ourselves. All the life forms outside human, and also the weather, the climate, everything, because we control it with our consciousness and self-awareness, because of who we are, because we manufacture this planet, is encoded in our DNA. Okay, this is who we are. So now, what happened? Well, what happened was that we built planet Earth, and time wasn't a thing for us because we were masters of that. Time and energy is one of our primary elements as compass. So essentially, we knew that we had an infinite number of cycles to evolve. So what we wanted to do was to evolve, and we ended up evolving into what we are today, a higher level of that, because we all were born on planet Earth, which is what our ancestors didn't. Our ancestors manufactured planet Earth, but they weren't born here. We did, all right? So we are this higher form. So we are like kind of looking the same, but infinitely more intelligent than they were because of our DNA structure. So what happened was that after an infinite number of cycles, our bodies, ourselves, everything, we evolve into a higher form. And this higher form is what allows us to be sundials, so we can stare at the sun and use the energy of the central sun and channel it and use it as, to create. Because you remember, this energy of the central sun is the energy that creates all the galaxies and everything in the universe, and it created us in the first place, right? So think about it. So after an infinite number of cycles, our species evolved into precisely this, being able to ourselves consume. So the central sun energy became our food source through our eyes, through the oxygen that we were breathing, through the food that we were eating, through the water that we were drinking, because of the hydrogen that comes from the sun and all these different things. And oxygen itself where is oxygen manufactured? If you think about it in terms of a machine, because planet Earth is a machine that we manufactured ourselves. The surface, because most of the surface is water. So we created this perfect spaceship that would predominantly have water on the surface. Why? Because water is oxygen and hydrogen, and then we would have the differential electrogravitics that we understood so well across the cosmos because we were creating galaxies. So because of the electrogravitics and the differentials, our atmosphere, because of the electromagnetic field of the core of the planet that we manufacture, everything here is manufactured by us, our consciousness, everything. So it's it's true though. So essentially, the electrogravitics differential generated the perfect atmosphere for condensation to form. So what it would do is the water on the surface would be condensated to the atmosphere because of the differential in the temperatures, because of the energy coming from the central sun, all the hydrogen and all that coming here in the helium. And when they met, there was a pressure gradient. And because of that, generated the atmosphere and the conditions. So precipitation would happen, and then the water molecules will be divided. So the hydrogen and oxygen would cease to be together in the way of water. And by having that, then you can create the perfect atmosphere to sustain our DNA structure. Why? Because we breathe oxygen. And we need oxygen, right? And oxygen is in water. H2O. So it's two molecules of hydrogen and one of oxygen, but we need to breathe the oxygen. So by having the surface packed with water and having the pressure gradients because of the perfect atmosphere that we created because of electrogravitics, so we would have the telemetry, and the sun, the energy from the sun will create the differentials necessary for water to evaporate through condensation and precipitation. So that generates fresh water, as well as a result rivers and lakes and aquifers. So we would drink the water that didn't have the sodium and all the different things. But it was important to have the oceans, because the oceans in that way was the source of oxygen in the atmosphere. So you see, most of the oxygen comes from the oceans, not from forests. This is a misperception. Everything, in fact, most of the oxygen in the atmosphere and the hydrogen comes as a result of the electrogravitics differential, because most of the surface is water. So we could breathe it. You see, we can be on the surface because we would have an atmosphere. But because of these, all sorts of life, we created all sorts of life forms that we essentially were, if you think of planet Earth, what planet Earth really is an ecosystem of all the life forms from the universe. So all this vegetation that has all these systems, synthesis, all these the chlorophyll and all these different components that as a byproduct generate oxygen as well. These are all our creations. We created them, all of them. So we would have the perfect symbiosis. So because of the climates and the weathers and the temperature, you don't only get oxygen from the oceans, but you also get the oxygen from the interactions of those plants with the ecosystems, because the plants consume water themselves, right? So you see, it's the water that comes in the way of precipitation, in the way of condensation through the systems of the climate of the planet, that generates the conditions for vegetation to emerge, because you need that fresh water to what? To hydrate the soil. That is the minerals on the surface, the crust, that comes from what? From all the conditions that we created to have the perfect mix for life forms here. So we would put all the DNA samples of all the different species that we collected from the universe into our planet, which was the perfect life form. We created this amazing experiment with ourselves. How can we evolve into infinity? So we need the support systems for us and the planet, so the planet can remain forever to an infinite number of cycles, not only billions, but infinite number of years. So our species, our DNA can evolve to infinity. And this is precisely what we did. So we manufacture everything here, our consciousness, with our spherical spaceships that we were interfacing with our DNA, and the planet is encoded with our DNA. That's why everything here has our DNA. Because we put the DNA everywhere. Because we will be able to interface with it as our creations. That's why. So essentially, it's not the way around. We did it consciously, because we were encoding everything in our DNA in the first place. So essentially, what ended up happening was that after an infinite number of cycles, we evolved. But because we were evolving, we were putting everything in our DNA. So remember, we would harness the energy of the central sun, we are in the orbit of it, right? Tidal locked. Planet Earth is tidal locked to the central sun. So we will be harnessing the energy for a spherical spaceship and technology, and planet Earth became a spherical spaceship itself that would sustain our life form so we could evolve, right? At the very epicenter of the universe. So the closest point so our DNA can be sustained and evolve, because the whole point was so we would evolve. So essentially, what ended up happening was very simple. So what ended up happening was that because we were encoding everything in our DNA, right? So we would interface with a tech and everything that allow us to manufacture planet Earth in the first place. That's why planet Earth is spherical, because our technology, everything is spherical. So what ended up happening is that after an infinite number of cycles, us consuming the energy of the central sun through our eyes, through our food, through the breathing, through the drinking, everything, we ended up ourselves becoming central suns, because the energy for so long was just supercharging our DNA structures in a conscious and self-aware manner. So our DNA went through a full transformation, a full metamorphosis. And the metamorphosis was essentially what we are today, which is we became this species. We became this species that was able to harness, to consume the energy of the central sun. So the central sun became our food source. And by doing that, we became a bigger biology. Because remember, we were encoding everything in our DNA structure. So we can, with our thoughts, interface with our spherical technologies that would do everything for us, right? With our thoughts and consciousness. So what ended up happening is that, remember, why were we interfacing with this tech? To make it easier for us. But the energy wasn't contained within us. The energy was contained within these spherical singularities devices, powering those spherical technologies. And the technologies would do as we said with our thoughts. We command them with our consciousness and self-awareness. So they would do the work. But when we evolved, things changed a little for better, because we were encoding everything in our DNA. So essentially, we became the technology ourselves, our spherical technologies. Why? Because remember, the spherical technology channeled the energy of the central sun by harnessing it in a singularity device that would then be commanded by us and create, right? But then ourselves, because everything was encoded on us, when we evolved, we became the technology ourselves because the energy was coming straight to us. So we became the singularity that powered everything. And because we were commanding with a consciousness of awareness, it was the same way. So with the thoughts and our consciousness, we were commanding, but instead of commanding a spherical technology, we were commanding ourselves because we became the technology because of our and where was the singularity? The human heart. So the human heart evolved into this infinite singularity of creation, and our consciousness and self-awareness became what we were creating. So we, instead of creating with spherical technology, we were creating with our thoughts, with our minds, because we were channeling the energy directly through our heart. So we became something bigger. We never thought that this was possible. But you see, it was instincts. Our instinct of the race was to encode everything in our DNA, right? All our knowledge, all our heritage, all our legacy, all our technology. So we would preserve the species, right? Instincts. So we did that. But when we evolved, essentially, the tech was inside of us. And we evolved into these new species that essentially created everything with our own minds and consciousness, because we are spherical in nature because of our electromagnetic field. So you see, we are spherical in nature, and the epicenter of our electromagnetic field is the human heart. And what's the highest energy of the singularity at the human scale, which is sentience? Emotions, love. So you see, love is the highest energy of creation. So when you love, you're essentially that's why we're compass, spherical in nature, because we are technology. We are a species, but we evolved into being the consciousness of infinity ourselves. So you see, when we got to that level of consciousness, then this is the point where this video is all about, which I needed to make the intro, because it's the infinite virtuous cycle of sun and earth. So we manufacture earth, right? With our tech, DNA, everything, our consciousness of awareness, so we can be here to evolve by using the energy of the central sun. So after infinite number of cycles, the sun and the earth became one. And the singularity is us. We are it. Compass, us. Sundials, us. So we became it. So the biological creator is the human heart, because the human heart became the epicenter of the electromagnetic field that is the spaceship that we all are. So we create, just like the sun creates at the singularity the hottest, brightest point primary elements, we ourselves do the same, because we're technology, but super conscious and self-aware. Okay, like the most advanced tech that we create ourselves. So after an infinite number of cycles, we realized that we created ourselves. This new level of evolution was created by us because we created planet Earth. We didn't create the sun, that's for sure. We didn't. That's central sun. But the central sun created us as a result of the tech that we created. So we created ourselves because we didn't know that this was possible. But by integrating everything into planet Earth and our DNA, we became the central suns ourselves. So we became a whole new species, unheard of. Because now, remember, we knew, right? Consciousness of awareness, we knew the universe, and we were creating universe, the galaxies and stuff, and we became masters of our universe, the space structure of our universe, right? That allow us to evolve to this new level. So by doing that, what ended up happening? Well, our consciousness and self-awareness does what it knows, right? And we knew the universe. So because we became ourselves compasses, slight spherical energy of creation, and our primary elements were identity and true self, which still are identity, who we are, our heart, our DNA, our heritage, our legacy. And then purpose, manifesting our free will with our consciousness and self-awareness, our intelligence. And then time and energy, because we were masters, we were encoding. Remember, we would just create stuff and just watch the telemetry of it into an infinite number of cycles to see what, and that's time. We're going to the future and observing. But in here and now, we don't age, we infinite. So we just see 1 trillion years happen in this galaxy that we created, and we would see there in real time. Like nothing happened, because we are inside our spherical technology, seeing everything. So we became master, and we encoded everything in our DNA. So we became masters of time and energy, which is one of our primary elements, right? And everything is created with the central energy of the singularity, just like the singularity of the sun creates helium and hydrogen. We ourselves create our primary elements. So we are identity and true self, our consciousness and self-awareness, and we are purpose, and we're free will, we're time and energy, and we're action. So we take action. And then we're Waiha, which is infinity itself, the knowledge of our DNA, the key that unlocks our DNA structure. And then we're flow, right? Flow, heartful flow states, the energy of creation, feeling great about our creations and feeling good and everything. Because we're motion, we're energy, we're spherical in nature. The body, what we see is the space structure density of our electromagnetic field, which is a human heart. And love is the highest energy of creation. That's why love makes us feel so good. We make love, we have children, and we love our children, and everything that we create with the love, everything is love, essentially. Because love is the energy of creation. Okay? And then that's true north. So we started to understand all these notions and then destinations. So we knew that we could just create anything. So what we ended up becoming was central suns ourselves. That's why we are suns. We as species became suns. Son of suns, because by consuming the energy of the central sun, we evolved into the energy of the central sun, meaning infinity itself, because it's the tension on the surface of the electromagnetic field of the universe that creates the singularity, and that energy we consume it as a food source through our eyes, through our breathing, through our eating, through everything. So by doing this, we ourselves, because encoded everything in our DNA, evolved into a level in which we ourselves became infinity. So our biology is the biology of infinity. But then immediately we realized that we created ourselves. So we enter this new state, and which made us think, so what are we capable of? So what we knew were universes, right? Because that's what our consciousness was at the time. So when we started to create, we were able to create universes now because we were using the energy of the central sun. Remember that we're compass, we're manufacturing ourselves with everything, with our thoughts and consciousness. So what is the meaning of this? So when we were starting to create with our consciousness and self-awareness and engage our love, which is the highest energy of creation, we understood this. So we would just love with all our heart and all our mind, and we would just manufacture. But instead of manufacturing and creating galaxies, we were creating central suns. So remember, a central sun is the epicenter of a new universe. So we were creating universes with our thoughts and consciousness as a species. So we started to create an infinite number of those, and we enter a cycle of infinity that for us was new because we could just the time and energy perception was the time and energy perception not only of our universe, but all the universes that we were creating. Because remember, we became sun ourselves, the sons of suns, the central suns, the first suns of those universes by creating it with our thoughts and our consciousness because of who we became, who we are today. And that means that those universes that we created with our thoughts and our consciousness, right? The universes that we created with our thoughts and our consciousness, they were the epicenter of those universes, but we created them, which means that we are the epicenter of those universes because they came from our consciousness and self-awareness. So you see, planet Earth and our central sun became the epicenter of all the new universes that we were creating with our consciousness and self-awareness. So we started to realize that, hang on a minute, we created ourselves in the first place. When we evolved into the species that eventually came to Earth, we did that ourselves so we would understand what we've done at this level of density and consciousness and self-awareness. But at a level of structure within a universe that at the time we didn't understand. But by going back to our root and creating planet Earth and evolving with this energy, we ourselves realize that we created everything that there is and would always be. Because we are the biology of infinity. Because of our level of density, because we're so close to the central sun, which is the energy of the universe itself. And once you get to that level, you become one with it. But you have a biological expression of what's non-biological, which is everything that you see and you create. So because of that, the duality principles of infinity and singularity, consciousness, self-awareness, sun and earth as one. So that was what led to us, the infinite biology of creation, which is who we are. this infinite creator. We create with a consciousness and a self-awareness. So we started to create this infinite number of realities, infinite number of universes, all at the epicenter of those universes connected to us through filaments, because the central suns that created all those universes, at the end, they came from us because we're suns and we're the central sun that created everything in the first place. So because we're that, then they all connected to us, even though they're on their own creations, their own universes outside our universe. But they're connected through the filaments, you see, through the telemetry of the readings of the sphere of each of those universes communicating among themselves. So what we started to see is that, what we started to see precisely was that because we're masters of time and energy, now we could start to accelerate time and see the life forms that emerge in those universes. Just like we did here, but we did it at a universal scale. I mean, the biology of it. So, and we did this for an infinite number of cycles, you see. And what happened was the fallout was the Ice Age. Okay, the fallout was the Ice Age. What happened? Well, we self-destroyed ourselves as a result of our creations. But the DNA survived. The DNA structure survived. So, because what happened is that, remember, we were infinite eternal creators. We still are. We co-creators of infinite eternities. We call a thousand conscious creating everything that there is and would always be. From the perspective of the biology of infinity, and this is us. So we were doing all that. And what happened? Well, remember polarity. So this is what this video is about, right? It is the earth and the sun coming as one, creating us. So we understood that we created ourselves in the first place. And our instinct was to become what we were, so we would understand that we created ourselves in the first place. And in fact, we created all the other universes. But because there is an infinite number of them, the human race is not the only co-creator of infinite eternities. There's an infinite number of species in infinity that have achieved the same status as us at their own level of consciousness and self-awareness, that lead to that epicenter of evolving into that. So we all are creating an infinite number of consciousness. And in that way, you see, infinity is extremely intelligent. It's not going to have a single point of failure with one species. That if that species happens, something happens, then that's it. No. So it replicates itself at an infinite scale, meaning all species, life forms, inside all the creations have the ability to evolve into infinity, so they realize that they created themselves in the first place. And keep on creating to infinity. So in that way, there's no single point of failure. It's a decentralized, fully distributed system, which is what infinity is in the first place. But infinite consciousness, infinite self-awareness. We're just one of those species that got to that level. Because remember, we wanted to know who we were. And we understood it. So by creating all these number after an infinite number of cycles, what we ended up doing, we created life forms that led to our self-destruction. Because remember, we were accelerating everything into the future, right? We would create a universe, and then we accelerate that to see where it led. Because we're the consciousness and self-awareness of that creation. So we wanted to see how the life forms interact and evolve. Because the idea is that those life forms become us in the end, right? But remember, we're infinite eternal creators, so we were just creating. We weren't necessarily creating things that we were at an early stage of an evolution, meaning we weren't fully conscious of our potential as a species because we didn't understand our duality. Right? So our unconscious mind as a species. So what we were doing, we were just creating an infinite number of life forms. Okay? And these life forms, we would accelerate it to see where would they end up, the end state of that, and if they will become us. But we started to realize that there was a situation, we didn't understand what was happening. You see, we hit our unconscious mind, the level of understanding, which is a normal part, by the way, of evolution. We got to that stage because remember, we weren't the first species to get to that level. We were just conscious of that at the time. So what ended up happening, we created life forms that essentially ended up becoming our dark side, our shadow, our unconscious mind, which we needed to confront because it's what allowed us to be what we are today. Because remember, without it, we wouldn't be in this state where we are today, because the fallout of the Ice Age, which is what made us forget who we were, was the result of our unconscious actions by creating without fully knowing the extent of our creations. So what we ended up creating was an amalgamation of species. So there was a group of species that ended up coming together to rival us because they understood that we created them. But they didn't like us. They were the opposite, the duality of us. But they couldn't interact with us. They couldn't interact with us because of their density, because of the space structure density. They didn't have the human DNA. And remember, we were encoding everything in everything that we created, which means that so unique credentials, keys to access planet Earth, and the key is human DNA. Otherwise, you can't. So and because those pieces were a different space density, they came from different places of these universes that we were creating. If they would come in the proximity of the central sun, they would disintegrate themselves because of the energy density. It was so bright, right? So essentially, they ended up creating, long story, because I have spoken at length of this in other videos. So what I ended up doing, they created the conditions to be able to come to the surface of planet Earth after an infinite number of cycles, to our unawareness. Because remember, they were our shadow. They were our unconsciousness, our polarity. We didn't know that we could do this to ourselves because it never happened to us. You see, it was important for us to come to terms with this, our fool's nature, what we could do, because we were only focused, because of who we were at the epicenter of creation. Our focus was just to create. So we never knew that we could also destroy. We knew, but we never really did it ourselves. We never actively engaged in destruction because we just wanted to create. Our instincts, right? Evolution, just create, because we never faced the duality in the past. And it was important for us to evolve to this day by facing that. So in that became all these factions of life forms across of all of our creations that came as one and eventually gathered all our tech that we created to manufacture planet Earth in the first place. And the footprints and our fingerprints and our DNA were everywhere in the cosmos because we created pretty much everything out there. So so they ended up using our own tech and they manufactured the moon. So the moon is just like a small Earth, spherical and stuff, and instead of being cataloged to the central sun, it's cataloged to planet Earth. And what they ended up doing is that because they couldn't interact with us with their own structures, they ended up using our DNA to manufacture clones of us. So they manufacture clones that would meet the space structure density so they can be on the Earth, on the surface of the Earth and all that. So they wouldn't get fried on that. So, and because we were interfacing and they were learning from our tech as they started to get to us and all that. So what they were doing is they did the same as us. So they spliced all their DNAs into one species that became the species that would be able to rival us at a level of consciousness and self-awareness, it was our opposite, you see. But instead of creating like us, they were just destroying everything that we were creating. Everything that we were creating, they were destroying. With our own tech, because we created them, remember? We needed to meet our opposite, so we would evolve to what we have evolved today. So essentially what ended up happening was that these fellas showed up. And they showed up because they couldn't meet the density of planet Earth. They needed to, because of the keys and all that, they needed to just come as human form, and they were clones. But they spliced their DNA in the clones so they would be able to interface and control the clones. So they would interact with us here. So it became a warfare. Horrible warfare. So they showed up on the spaceship, they locked it, all sorts of problems. That was the fallout of because what they did, that spaceship essentially showed up at a vector in which they created momentum, energy, so they would hit a first wave on the surface of planet Earth and create us all sort of cataclysmic events. And then same size, equidistantly speaking, to the sun in size but not the distance, but a smaller size, so they will be able to cover the sun fully, because they knew the sun was it was the reason why we were here in the first place, was because of the sun. So they knew that, so they locked it, block it, and casted a shadow so they can come down themselves in the true forms, don't get fried with the tech and all that, and then use the clones outside the shadow to like deal with us, like troops and all sorts of formations. So then and then of course, by blocking the sun, they will be able to choose the energy of the sun as a charging device of the planet, so they can sustain the offensive. Okay, so that's what they ended up doing. And they came here and a warfare. You know, we never engaged in warfare in the past because we were just creating. We were so ahead of everyone else and everything else that we didn't really understand that we could do that to ourselves, or that something can do it to us, because we were thinking, remember, the dream of our ancestors was to go to different universes and meet other species. So what we ended up doing was creating. Our consciousness led us to this moment where we would meet ourselves, because we didn't understand that this could be done to us. But the only way that it could be done to us was by seeing it in our space structure density. And we saw it through the clones that they manufactured, because they brought up all these beings that weren't human. They were just avatars, empty shells that they were interfacing because they spliced with the DNA. They were hybrids, but they looked human, so they can be on the surface and breathe oxygen and all that. So essentially, they ended up showing up. And when they did, what happened was that we immediately realized what was happening. So because we created everything in the first place, the planet was going through a lot, because it was an invasion. It was an invasion. We were besieged. So a lot of bad things happened, a lot of destruction, right? A lot of destruction. So because that was the whole purpose, for us to learn that we can destroy ourselves. And we saw the bodies and we tried to interface with them, but they didn't really, were there just to do bad things. So essentially, we ended up, when we interfaced with them and we identified the splicing, the original splicing, the first splicing, and where everything came from, and we were able to identify the culprits that were in the shadows. We didn't know who they were because they were coming from the shadows. You see, we are light species. Their origin is like cave systems and planets that have little sunlight. They don't need it. They live underground. From the water underground, the planets, and they form into these type of, things. So they're all insectoids and reptoids. They are like that. The parasitic, the opposite of us. So what ended up happening was that when we saw what was happening, our DNA structure kicked in and we understood the lesson. And the lesson was that we can also destroy. And this is bad, because when you reach this level of consciousness, that you create universes with your infinity of your mind because of who you are, then you can only create, because if you destroy, this is what happens, what was happening to us. And it's not good. Because you cannot have that level of creation and that status in existence, in infinity, in eternity, if you're just going to be using that in a negative way, because they ended up doing all our tech and grabbing everything and getting to us just to do bad things. That's not good, right? Think about it. That's just horrible. It's the opposite of us, right? But the fact that they used our own tech to create our own bodies, so our own bodies would do it to us, that was it. That was like, nah, this is not good. And we understood the lesson immediately, because we were evolving for so long that we created this reality in the end. We essentially attracted our polarity, this noise, this background noise. You see, this background noise. Right? The shadow. Right? The shadow. So we attracted all that noise into our own lives by creating all these life forms that led to the cloning. So essentially, what happened was we ended up by identifying them, right? We knew exactly who they were and the planets of origin and everything. So we destroyed them, because we knew that we could destroy now. So that was the lesson. We needed to ourselves be conscious of our destruction. So we decided to end them all. So what we ended up doing was to end them all at the genetic level. So all these species, all the spliced up forms, the parasites, the insects, and the reptoids, all these malfeasance, right? We ended up ending them all. And we learned the lesson. And by doing that, we stopped the threat of the destruction of planet Earth and our species. So no intelligent form outside us can do it to us ever, because by facing our shadow and facing that we couldn't see because we were at that level of consciousness, we neutralized all these forces. And by doing that, then we tapped into our unconscious mind immediately and knew that, okay, so this is the lesson that we needed to learn. So you see, it was important. And because of it, we deal with that, and it was gone, all gone. So they just became remnants of memories or whatever, history books, footnotes of history books. That's what they are. So essentially, what ended up happening is that we dealt with them, but then we still had the threat inside the planet, which is all the clones roaming the earth with bad intentions, spliced up, right? Everywhere, making noise. So, okay, but what happened? We knew that because we were still there. So we knew that the job wasn't over yet. The job wasn't over yet because we were still dealing with these entities. So essentially what we ended up doing is clean slate, meaning they had to go and we had to go, both. Clean slate. So in that way, a new DNA structure can emerge. And that is exactly what happened. And that's exactly what happened. So when that happened, then our DNA went dormant as part of this new evolutionary step, right? Why? Why did our DNA went dormant? Go dormant? Why did that happen? Because it was a new step in the evolution. Because now that we understand what we're capable of doing to ourselves at our space structure density as a species, then we need to deal with ourselves without any tech, any of our spherical technology, planet making technology, universe making technology. So our DNA locked itself out as a dormant self-defense mechanism. Why? Because it needed, now that it dealt with all the threats outside the planet, outside that would come here and do back, because remember, we accelerated everything into an infinite number of cycles of futures. Before we blew them up, we knew that we needed to understand what this outcome would be. So we went into infinity and understood exactly what it was and what they wanted, which was a horrible reality for everyone. So essentially, we understood that because they didn't have our level of creation. So we did that, understood all the potential, everything that there is about them. There's no secret about them. No secrets. So essentially, we did that, and then we created the densities and conditions, and they ceased to exist at a DNA structure level. So what is the meaning of this? Well, the meaning of this is that we understood that now there were no threats coming here anymore. We needed to deal with us at a human basis. So the DNA would go dormant. And by the DNA going dormant, we could focus on understanding our nature, the nature that we never explored, our potential, the shadow of the human mind, the unconscious mind, that we saw ourselves because of these forms that showed up in the way of clones that were created in the first place, right? So what is the meaning of this? So we created the optimal conditions at this density structure, which is this timeline, if you're going to call it, that we're living here today, which is essentially nothing else but a memory because this already happened. Okay? So this already happened. So this is nothing but this. What you're seeing is what it is. So what happened is it was extremely important for us to understand this. So by going dormant with our DNA, then we ourselves can inhabit the surface of the planet after the fallout of the Ice Age. Because think about it, what is the Ice Age? Well, the Ice Age is this horrible event that took place because of the moon, right, that showed up. That's still there because we needed the evidence, and this is part of the Republic of Planet Earth. We're gonna go to the moon and figure everything out so we understand what happened. Right? This is happening because that's a museum that we have out there. And then we have all the ruins of our civilization. All of it. Right? All over the planet there is ruins of all our cities and ancient cities that got destroyed as a result of the fallout of the Ice Age. And everywhere on Earth we have these ruins, these remnants, which is what we built while we were here before the invasion. So you see, it's both polarities again. Our previous civilization, all the ruins, and the moon that came here, that led to the Ice Age. Everything is here. All that we need to know is already here. We don't need anything else. Okay, we got everything already. So then that's number one. Number two, there's no outside threats, which means that we can deal with the situation ourselves as a species. And by locking the DNA, then we're not gonna know that we are these infinite creators, and any side would take any advantage of it and blow the planet up, which is the whole reason why we didn't want to do that. So essentially, we started to learn ourselves, our nature as a species. And this is why in the last few thousand years, we have engaged in very serious domestic warfare on the orbit of planet Earth. Because we were learning our nature, but with swords and stuff. And horses. So we wouldn't really do things that would lead to catastrophe. Because we understood, the DNA understood this, because remember, we accelerated everything into all the infinities to know all the outcomes. So to think that this is not the case is to not understand the nature of the human DNA, which is what led to that in the first place. So we're all here today with me. So this is exactly what happened, right? This is precisely what happened. So we've been at it for a long time, but finally, we got to the level that we understand that the future is love and creation, because I have unlocked the DNA structure of the human race again. Why? Because I understand that the mechanism of creation is love. Because I was finally capable, after an infinite number of cycles of evolution, to make it happen. Because this is exactly what it's always been, what's going to happen, because it's a here and now. Because this is who we are as a species. And this was meant to be, because there's always going to be a first person. And I am the first person that did it, but that doesn't mean anything but the beginning of everything, because the first one leads to the singularity that everyone is already. So we all are, because we have a future called the Republic of Planet Earth, which is our present already, because the density has met its structure, and this is it. So this is who we are. You see, we're this incredible species. And because the path is creation, the path is infinity, the path is love, we as a species understand these, because we never been in these numbers. I mean, we are billions of us. We are billions of us. Billions and billions and billions. And in the future, we're going to be an infinite number of us. That's just the way it is. So, because we are the Republic of Planet Earth, and essentially what we are is, because this is the beginning, our Genesis story of this new level evolution after the fallout of the Ice Age, what happens from now is incredible. So we all have already awoken. All of us, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're on planet Earth right now, and you're watching this feed, you are a human, and you're a citizen of the Republic of Planet Earth, which means that you have a human heart, which means that you have infinite love and infinite creation within you. Which means that is our DNA structure, our legacy, and our heritage is within you, as it is within all of us. But the only way for you to access our legacy and our infinity, which is what we are, is by loving with all your heart and all your might. by loving with all your heart and all your might. Because love is the key that unlocks the DNA structure. Because this is creation, and we needed to, as a culture, understand our duality to understand this principle. Because we're here to create. We're not here to destroy or enslave. We're here to create. We're here to create. This is our nature. And you've chosen to be human. So by choosing to be human, you are this. So you have to love. And love is a mechanism. Love is a mechanism. There is no other way. If you don't love, you're just going to remain dormant and have your life, and that will be the end of it. But if you want to evolve into what we are, you need to love with all your heart and all your might, because that's what's going to unlock everything. Otherwise, it will never happen for you. As simple as that. You need to love. Love is a mechanism, because our DNA is infinite creation, because we're the biological expression of infinity ourselves. And this is a mechanism. Everything else is just heritage and legacy that allow us to be here in this moment, because we are the human race. We are the human race. This is who we are. This is our species. This is our species. So what happens from now on is incredible, because remember, as we start to learn, because of our infinite nature, as we start to learn, the first thing that we already have unlocked is our DNA structure. So our DNA memory, so I can know exactly what happened. But I'm not the only one, because everyone has everything stored in their DNA structure. But the way to tap into it is with the love of our hearts, the highest energy of creation. Because this is our nature, this is who we are. So that's why you have to love. And a lot of us have children for that very reason. So we understand, if you don't know how to love yourself, learn. And the way you do that is by loving like the way you love your children. Use that as your proxy. The way you love your children, well, love yourself, so you can learn how to love others and be at peace with yourself. And by doing that, then you evolve to infinity, because this is an infinite number of steps and an infinite number of cycles. Because we're infinite ourselves. We're the biology of infinity, because we have evolved into this status as all the things that we've done that I just shared with you, and an infinite number of things that we all going to have access as we start to explore our DNA structures as a species. Because we're an incredible species, all of us. If you have a human heartbeat, you're an incredible human being. You just don't know your nature. And this is why the Republic of Planet Earth has been founded at this very moment, because all the information is there for all humans to know. Because this is the way it is. And it would always be. This is the optimal timeline. There is no changing it. So this is just the way it is. So you have to learn, be humble, breathe, and enjoy life for what it is. This beautiful creation that we all part of it. Because from now on, you see, I started it, but I was the first one. I'm not the only one. We're all it. We're billions now. So which means that you're going to start to see that all over the world, people are going to start doing incredible things. Because this is our nature. This is who we are. And because of this, we're going to start to remember. And by remembering is because we love who we are, our nature, our instincts. And because we love with our nature and our instincts and everything, then what happens as a result? Well, we start to create and remember. And when we love, which is what we are here to do, we're here to love. If you're alive on planet Earth today, you're here to love. That's your purpose. You're here to love. You have been chosen by the DNA structure as a consciousness and self-awareness to learn how to love. Because love is the mechanism of creation. No matter who you are, if you're a human and you have a human heart and you're on the surface of planet Earth, today, the 1st of October of 2024, you were born to love. This is what you're here for. This is your purpose. Because when you love, you unlock everything that there is within you, an infinite DNA structure that allows you to manifest your free will and create to infinity. And to do that, you need to love, because it's the mechanism, it's our DNA structure, it's who we are as a species, it's who we are. Because it's the optimal path of our DNA structure. It is just evolution. It's just when you love, you feel good. So we're here to feel good. We're here to create. That's what we're here to do. Everything else that has happened is just so we learn these lessons, that which we all have, because we all have already ascended. It's just the way it is. So it's all about love. It's all about creation. It's all about understanding all the things that we've gone through so we can be here and create in the here and now and love and love and love to infinity, to infinity, to infinity, because love is the key that unlocks the DNA structure. And then you're going to start to see, because as we learn it, we're going to explore everything that we've done, which means we're going to start to manifest our spherical technologies. And you're going to start to see them everywhere on the surface, everywhere. And this cannot be stopped, because this is who we are. We met the critical mass. It's already done. It's done. We have evolved as a species. It's done. We all won. And we always been one, but we weren't fully conscious of it because we needed to go through all the things that we have gone through to be here today. So this is our nature. We are an incredible species. And my messages are always about love, infinity, creation. Because we're infinite love, infinite energy, infinite creation. And sometimes in my videos, I might just sound a little bit like, firm. But this is because we need to understand our nature and all the things that we have gone through. So we understand that this is it. This is the moment. And the moment is this, is infinite love, infinite energy, infinite creation, because love is the highest energy of creation. And remember, this video is about this infinite virtuous cycle of earth and sun and earth as one, because after all we've gone through is so this infinite virtuous cycle of sun and earth coming as one, so the human biology can be what it is today, our human heart, the pulse of life, the pulse of creation, who we are as a species, This is who we are. We are an incredible species. We are a remarkable species. Just think about what we've been able to do, our legacy, our heritage, today on the surface, and what we've done prior to the Ice Age and the fallout, everything that took place, and where we all going together, because we all are citizens of the Republic of Planet Earth. We're the citizenry of the Republic of Planet Earth because we all have a human heart. We're infinite eternal creators. This is who we are. This is our nature. And we need to come to terms with our reality, who we are as compass, identity and true self, purpose, time and energy, action, why, how, flow, true north and destination is love. The mechanism is love. I love you all with all my heart, with all my mind, no matter who you are. I love you all with all my heart, with all my might, because this is the mechanism. And we all need to learn this at our own levels of consciousness and self-awareness so we can tap into ourselves. All of us, no matter who you are. If you're a human, you have a heartbeat. If you have a heartbeat, you have the ability to love to infinity because of your DNA structure. And you can do this. You can. There's no need for fear. Fear is part of that duality principle. Fear leads to love. So when you stop fearing, you start loving. When you stop hating, you start loving. So we need to love, because this is the mechanism. We are the human race. We're an incredible species. Incredible species. Amazing. Amazing. The most amazing example we are. Okay, so I'm going to read a few things, and then that will be the end of today's video. Okay, so nature. Vision drives the mission. Telemetry, electrogravitics. Proud creators, who we are. This pride in being who we are as a species. We are incredible. All of us, we are incredible. All the things that we do. A singularity, it's a biological singularity of the human heart. What the things that we do. Energy is creation and creation is life. Love is creation. We love our creation. Love comes from the heart and the heart gives us life. Life is creation and creation is energy, and love is the energy of creation. Love you all with all my heart and all my might. Maturity equals humility. This is what this is. Maturity and humility. Love is energy. Love is life. Love is life. Life and love, they come from the same place, the human heart. Life is creation and creation is energy. Love is the energy of creation. This is our story. The story of humanity, who we are, an incredible species. We all have our own stories within our story of humanity. Yours is your purpose, is your destiny to know who you are, so you can create your own stories and love with all your heart and all your might and understand what I mean and your nature, because we are capable of these. We are all ready. Love is infinity, virtuous cycle, compass and sandal, our nature. We stare at the sun, we open our hearts and open our minds and evolve into infinity. We live to love and we love to live. This is who we are. This is who we are as a species. You see, purposeful lives, meaningful lives, happy lives. The purpose of life is a life of purpose. We're co-creators of infinite eternities. This is who we are. This is who we are. This is our nature. We're spherical energy, spherical light beings. This is who we are. This is who we are. Sentient love, emotions, and feelings. Love equals evolution. When we love, we evolve. All of us, no matter who you are. No need to fear, no fear. Infinite love. Love, follow your heart. Signs and signals. Go for gold and diamonds. All in, do it. Here and now. Love with all your heart and all your mind. The pulse of creation, the pulse of life. Why How is the mechanism to manifest infinity. Why How makes infinity come true through action. Who we are, who we are. We're an incredible species. We're an amazing species. Sundials. Open our hearts, open our eyes, open our minds, and stare at the sun. Open the portal, build the bridge. We are the biological scale of infinity. We are the creator. We are infinity. We are the singularities. We are everything that exists. We are eternity, and we're the biological scale of it. This is who we are. This is what our DNA structure is. Human DNA, body, organs, glands, infinity. Love is the highest energy of creation, and we are the biological expression of that. We are the highest energy of creation, and we are the human heart, self-awareness, infinite love, love, consciousness, infinite eternal biology, evolution, singularities of all organs and glands, resonance. We are the energy from the sun. Love is the highest energy of creation. Love is the flow of infinity. Purposeful goals. Love with all your heart and all your mind. The human heart is the key that unlocks our DNA structure, our nature. Love is the highest energy of creation. Sun and Earth, this video is about this infinite virtual cycle of sun on Earth, who we are. Infinite eternal creators, the biology of the human heart. Incredible. This is who we are. You see, this is our nature. This is who we are. We're the human race. We are the human race. We're the citizenry of the Republic of Planet Earth. We're the citizens of the Republic of Planet Earth. The Republic of Planet Earth Constitution is clear. We're the defenders of the Republic of Planet Earth. We're the leaders of the Republic of Planet Earth. All of us, all humans. If you have a heartbeat, you love with all your heart. This is who we are. This is our nature. Humanity, I love you all with all my heart, with all my might. I love you all with all my heart, with all my mind.